Hey folks, we're back. That's right. A second season of the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show after every green and white game.
Okay. I'm ready when you're ready.
Hey folks, we're back. That's right. A second
Is that
season
live
of
right
the Our
now?
Balls Are Bigger postgame show
Okay.
after every green and white game. Join me along with my co-host Kyrie Zaber, the former NFLer and CFLer, and accomplished high school football coach Ryan Hall, as we break down each week's game for you. And new this year, we will welcome your telephone calls. So yeah, like a regular call-in show, call in, we'll chop it up with you. Can't wait to have another fun season. It's the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show.
Okay, I just sent them the link. Okay, so I'll go this over here. You should see your chats there on the left side. Those are that mini feed, those are notifications, so you can see you're getting likes on this video here. Right now it's just on the intro screen. Chat should show up as well. He said our links are hot. That looks good.
Why not?
All right, and welcome to the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show. Michael Ball here, and wherever you're taking in this postgame show and however you're doing it, I do appreciate it. The numbers to call if you want to talk some football with myself and Ryan Hall, 306-922-6955. Riders win at 28-23. I feel like ballsy Damas here, Ryan, because I had the Riders winning 28-25, so 28-23 looks good. Although I will say Brett Lothar, if he misses 3 field goals and an extra point, it shouldn't have been that close.
Yeah, he might have heard your prediction and might have been trying to do you a solid with those. But, yeah, I think the rest of Rider Nation probably would rather you missed your prediction and he hit the field goals.
Yeah, for sure. Overall, your thoughts, and we'll get into the meat and potatoes of this, but overall, your thoughts.
Kind of an inconsistent game, I think, on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. Speaking Riders, because that's always kind of our main focus. Sometimes the offense looked sharp. They had some good runs. They had some good pass completions, and then they had a few misses and a few runs that didn't really get anywhere. Again, the defense, they're giving up a lot of yards through the air. On the ground, Hamilton didn't run the ball too much, but yeah, again, over 300 yards. So they're getting close to get around 750 yards in the first 2 games through the air. So there's got to be still a little bit of concern with their pass coverage.
Yeah, I mean, Bo Levi Mitchell, I think for the 50th time in his career, Ryan, goes over 300 yards passing. But when the Riders' defense had to buckle down, they did. Thought Corey Mace has always been good at this, even back to his Argos days. He's been good at calling a blitz at the right time.
And he doesn't call them often. Like, if you look at the game, most of the time they're just sending the 4 defensive linemen. That's it. But you're right that at just the right time, he does send that extra man. And again, this year, I don't know if I've seen any six-man pressure or any +1 pressures. I think it's usually just one linebacker that he's sending, but a lot of times it ends up being effective.
We're just having a little bit of problem here in Ryan Hall's mic, so people want us to turn up Ryan's mic if we can, as Leander's going to work on that. Rough Riders win it 28-23 over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Looking at the offense, the running game, it's nice to have those 2 horses there. I don't know. I didn't see the stats. I know at halftime it was 81 yards rushing for A.J. Ouellette, who does not have a 100-yard rushing game as a Saskatchewan Rough Rider running back. So he had 81 yards, and I think he got up to 94 yards at one point. And then Kadeem Carey comes in. It's amazing, Ryan, what competition will do even within a team, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. And I mean, we might get to this. I saw some people posting about the Brett Lothar situation, that maybe some competition needs to happen there. But yeah, certainly when you've got somebody pushing for your spot on the field, this is going to give you a little bit of extra motivation. But I mean, at the same time, these guys are pro athletes, and I think they're pretty self-motivated even without that. But yeah, Carey, I thought, was looking good in the first half. It seemed like they didn't use him much in the second half, though.
No, they didn't, but obviously he's a guy that just got brought in. He's a veteran, right? But he just got brought in, plopped, onto the practice roster and quickly off the practice roster because of the injury to Thomas Bertrand Houdon, Thomas the Train. But I tell you what, Riders, you think about Houdon, what he did in week 1. A.J. Ouellette, if he can run like that, that's the longest I think that's the longest run of his career for a touchdown, 47 yards. And then you got Kadeem Carey, who's a 1,000-yard rusher. That helps a quarterback like Trevor Harris, who isn't exactly mobile.
Right. And again, rushers don't rush unless the offensive line blocks. And this is 2 weeks in a row now where there's not a whole lot negative to talk about with the offensive line. Like, the rushing game was pretty good, pretty effective. The pass protection was pretty good. I think they just gave up the 1 sack, the first sack of the season on Harris. So again, the O-line, which a lot of people were a little bit skeptical about coming in, I think they've been playing pretty well so far.
All right. So the number to call, 306-922-6955. Having said that, though, you don't expect Trevor Harris to run for 80 yards. He's not exactly a Doug Flutie type. But when he had to keep the play alive on that key touchdown drive, which ended with Keyshawn Johnson scoring the touchdown. He scrambled around and kept the play alive and then dumped it off to Keyshawn Johnson.
Yeah, just really good pocket awareness, and he's not fat. He's not a fast, agile guy, but if you just take the right lateral movement at the right time just to evade that rush, you buy yourself an extra half second or second, and that was obviously a huge play in that drive to keep it going and set themselves up for that good touchdown pass.
We can see your chats too. Steve Kleinsasser, I think he's, if I'm not related, he's related, or not mistaken, he's related to Jim Kleinsasser, the old Vikings fullback, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, Steve wants to know, is it past Brett Lother's due date? Do you think here's the thing I'll say about Brett Lother. Brett Lother notoriously the last few years has started slow. He has started slow and then picked it up as the season went along. And I will say, I wasn't in Hamilton, but the wind swirls there. The first two kicks were 50 and 51 yards, but you got to make that kick at the end of the game, and he knows it, we know it, and you got to make the extra points too.
Yeah, it looked like he was struggling for most of the game, pushing the ball to the right. And, we talked about this last week with the holder. It's a new holder. They did show his last miss, and it looked like the hold was fine. And that one, you kind of looked at his kicking motion. It looked a little awkward. And that was the one he missed to the left. So kind of wonder if he was maybe overcompensating just a little bit too much for the struggles he was having pushing it to the right. But yeah, this is deja vu. We've had these conversations about Lother before. And again, I saw a couple people on Twitter. Oh, it's time for him to go. Like you said, his expiry date is up. I'm not sure. Specialists, like we talked about last week, are very, very technical, and it doesn't take much for things to go wrong. And certainly night to night, none of his kicks looked good. But, sometimes we have bad days, whatever we're doing. Golf, I was watching the U.S. Open and some of the top golfers in the world, just terrible, shanking the ball, into the rough all over the place. So, the best athletes in the world can have off days. And I'm not ready to throw Brett Lother out yet.
No, but I do think competition is important. We just talked about it with regards to the running back spot. There are kickers out there that you could bring in. I think Aliram Haralahu is out there. I think he's on a practice roster somewhere. He was released. It's slipping the top of my mind here, but there's a guy that has pedigree. You could bring in somebody to push Brett Lother because it's all, competition's good for everybody.
Yeah, push him or even to just, I know in hockey, the hockey game's going on right now. Hopefully we don't lose anybody to that, but probably we will. But, yeah. It always seems like this, when coaches pull goalies, just oh my God, that's such a big deal. Why is it a big deal? If the goalie's not sharp, if he's having an off night, get him out of there, give somebody else a chance. Mm-hmm. And, maybe if, Lother has a night like tonight, and if they do have somebody available like a Hiralathu or whoever, and okay, well, let's give him the start next week and see how it goes.
By the way, Oilers getting smoked 4-1 by the Florida Panthers. The backup goalie Pickard, who is undefeated in the playoffs, and the reason they're there, in large part, hasn't been able to stop every puck from what I've seen, and of course, obviously, and the Oilers just look. I'm surprised the Oilers look just absolutely. I thought they'd come and beat the brakes off of Florida after that miraculous comeback, but Florida showing their championship pedigree. Go 7 games, but I'm in a group chat with my son and my cousin who's a firefighter in Edmonton. We talk football, we talk hockey, and as soon as I was watching both games on my TV at home, and I said, Oilers are done. The Stanley Cup's done now. I didn't think Florida would win a game in Edmonton again. I don't think it's coming back to Edmonton. I think the Stanley Cup is done for the Oilers, which sucks. That's because I'm an Oilers fan. Who do you cheer for in hockey, by the way?
I cheer for the 1970s and early 80s Montreal Canadiens. That's kind of the last I really cared about NHL hockey.
Yeah.
Up until a couple of years ago when the Canadiens had a nice run, then I got myself a Guy Lafleur jersey and wore that a bit. But yeah, the NHL just doesn't hold a lot of appeal to me. I love my football and rugby and track and field. I'm into soccer now from going to Scotland last year and going to that Manchester United game down in England. So now I'm a Manchester City fan. So I've got a few other sports interests. Hockey I used to really be into, but I'm not a big fan of the NHL game. I like, younger levels of hockey, I think, where I just like it better.
Yeah, although this has been a really good series. This might go down as one of the better series. I thought it would probably be a classic until this one, they laid an egg. Anyway, we're not here to talk hockey. We're here to talk football. Leander, if you're ready, I want to go to our start with our drive of the game, which is brought to you by our friends at Ward Tirecraft. Ward Tirecraft Regina, proud to be the last of the small town style tire and automotive shops in the city, prioritizing the happiness of their customers and the safety of their vehicles. They've had some of the same customers for over 40 years, including yours truly, which is why I asked them to come on board as a sponsor for my shows. For all your tire and mechanical needs, go see Michael Barth and his crew at 101 Dudney Avenue. Tell them Ballsy sent you, and you get 10% off. Tirecraft Regina, proud to be the last of the small town style tire and automotive shops in the city, prioritizing the happiness of the customers and the safety of their vehicles. They've had some of the same customers for over 40 years, including yours truly, which is why I asked them to come on board as a sponsor for my show. For all your tire and mechanical needs. Okay, welcome back to the Our Bells Are Bigger postgame show. Sorry, we're just working out the kinks. Game number 2 for us here. Thanks to Leander behind the scenes working this operation as we try to take the show to the next level. Our phone calls, you can call 306-922-6955. All right.
Yeah, calls tonight. Come on, folks.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, call us tonight, and I'll line you up a shirt. An Our Balls Are Bigger shirt brought to you by our good friends at Hammer Time Roofing in Saskatoon. If you're in Saskatoon and surrounding area, you need some roofing, 262 Roof. Okay, Ryan, the drive of the game. I had to go with that drive in the fourth quarter, about 8 minutes to go. It was the Trevor Harris to Keyshawn Johnson drive, and it ends with that touchdown. Nice throw. Great job by the O-line picking up the blitz as Hamilton came with the full-out blitz there. And kind of that, not really a corner route, almost a tweener route, a corner kind of out to the pylon, and a great throw by Harris, a nice two-handed catch by Keyshawn Johnson.
Yeah, those kind of passes by quarterbacks are really nice. You kind of throw it to that open space over to the wide side of the field there. There's lots of room, whether you're throwing, like you said, a corner, like a flag route, or kind of an out where the receiver has lots of room to come back. And the way it worked out, Harris just placed it perfectly where Johnson was just able to break the plane when he brought the ball into his chest there. So that was a great finish to the drive. But yeah, kind of interesting how in that, like you said, it was the Keyshawn Johnson drive. Like it was just pass after pass to him, and nice passes by Harris, nice catches by Johnson, and a couple of good yards after the catch. Last week it was Sam Emelis who stole the show, had a great game. This week it's Johnson that had the plus 100-yard game. So I think that's a really good sign when a team doesn't have to rely on just one key receiver. You've got multiple guys that can hit you for 100 yards in a game.
What I like about the Canadian Football League now, Ryan, from years ago is they're getting away from non-traditional Canadian spots. You know what I mean? We used to just throw our Canadians on at safety. We'd throw them interior defensive tackles. We'd throw them O-line, and that would be it. Now, BC had Andrew Harris. Then he went to Winnipeg, of course, the Riders running backs coach. But now, look at the Riders. I'll give them credit here. The receiving core and the depth of their Canadian receiving core. Del Duncan Busby had his best game as a Rough Rider today.
That was kind of quiet. I might have missed a couple of plays, but I noticed he had a couple of catches. What did he end up with?
I think he had 5 catches in the game and a few chain movers. Mitch Picton's always Mr. Reliable. Yeah. He's on that team because he knows all the positions. He's one of those ditch diggers that you need on your football team. Mims didn't see the field from what I could see in terms of getting a pass on offense. I didn't see if he was on special teams. But then, of course, Kean Schaefer-Baker out. Sam Emelis continues to emerge. I think we're going to see him get into elite status. Got to learn not to take some stupid penalties sometimes. Sometimes he loses his marbles, but he's definitely a prime target in this league too.
Yeah, I mean, that penalty he took wasn't a terrible penalty, but it wasn't like, you just got to have a little bit of self-control. Some guy comes up from behind you, Katsatonis, and bumps you a little bit and says something like, just keep your hands down. Even though he didn't hit him hard, he did come up with hand to the face, like kind of a backhand in the face mask. And like, you just got to.
Okay, but let me stop you, Hallsy. Okay, you're a high level coach. You still coach, and you coach a lot to do with safety, which I like. Okay, I get it. But this is an alpha dog sport. You were an alpha dog. I was an alpha dog. You have to have that mentality when you play, whether you're a $145 or 330. You got to play with an edge, a little bit of grit. Don't you have to ref the game like that too? Like, come on, it's not like he punched him and the guy hit him with a head, little nudge with the head. In fact, I thought Katsatona should have got the penalty, not Emelis. But my point is, do you not have to kind of ref it like, okay, guys, I'll let you get away with that one. Like, these are grown men out there to harm each other. Let's be honest.
Well, I think, excuse me, I think it's a point of emphasis in the CFL this year, and they talked a little bit about it on the TV broadcast, that they're trying to get rid of that after the whistle stuff. And I think in the grand scheme of things, you're right that it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't an egregious, violent act that he did for the 15-yard penalty, but it did break the rules. The other extreme, and again, the reason why I'm not a big NHL fan, like the conference final when I watched Florida playing against
Carolina.
Who are they playing? Carolina, yeah. And I just, like, Florida was just bullying them with crap after the whistle. Like, if you're going to bully them by being out physical before the whistle, just with forechecking and body checking and all that kind of stuff, fair enough. But there's so much stuff. Like, I saw it a couple weeks ago at the end of a period. One of the Florida players grabbed the Carolina player by the throat, gave her grab by the throat, and didn't get a penalty for it. And, just trying to bring on a retaliation by the Carolina player. And I'm just like, and they let it go. Like, how can you let somebody, like, that is a even though it wasn't a violent, like, he didn't, choke him, like, going to somebody's throat like that, like, that's just garbage. Mm-hmm. That's just a garbage human being thing to do. And if you let that go, and they let that crap go in hockey a lot, which is why I'm turned off from the NHL a lot. And I hope that's kind of what they're thinking about in football, is we don't want that crap. You want to play hard, you want to hit hard, you want to be aggressive, do it before the whistle. After the whistle, it plays over. Go back to your huddle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that about football. What I like about football is it's a penalty in June and it's a penalty in November. Do they miss calls? Do they miss calls? Yes. But if you hit a quarterback below the knees or hit a guy in the head, it's a penalty in June and it's a penalty in November. In the NHL, it's a penalty in October, but it's not a penalty in May, or it's a penalty in the first period in May, but it's not at the end of the game. And I don't like that. It becomes very WWE-ish, which I don't like.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that.
That's how I feel about that. In terms of, I want you to take me through a play. Kenny Lawler's wide open down the sidelines, okay? And whose fault is that? Because Glenn Suter and I have had this conversation. Glenn Suter used to get lit up all the time because he's the safety's the last line of defense, so he looks like he's the guy that's, having the coverage breakdown because he's the last man standing around the football, right? But in terms of that play there, and you know which one I'm talking about, where the play before they had a guy wide open, I think it was Tim White, and Tim White's got Ray Elgard disease. He'll make a great catch when there's four guys on him, but when he's wide open, he'll drop it. Tim White has Ray Elgard's disease. I'm sorry, Ray was a great player, but that was his Achilles heel. Same thing here. So they missed that pass, but then they come right back to Kenny Lawler. What happened on that play? Because you've coached defense.
Yeah, so what happened, it was a zone coverage, and Marcus Sales was the corner, and then there's the halfback inside. So I'm assuming it was a 2-deep coverage. I didn't see the whole field, so you couldn't see Nelson Lacombo was deep on that side of the field. I think he had deep half, which is a lot of field to cover. So if you're playing a too deep coverage, the corners have to have outside position on the wide receivers, and they have to force them inside. They have to force them to the deep help. Sales was very lackadaisical lining up on that play. He wasn't in any kind of a stance. He didn't have any outside leverage on Lawler. He was just standing there, let Lawler get an easy outside release. And that's another thing that kills defense, that kills pass defense, is letting receivers have wide open releases where they can just run free without anybody obstructing them, rerouting them. Like, not that you have to bash them and crash them, but just force them off their path so it disrupts the timing of the quarterback and the receiver. So Sales did nothing. Lawler had a free run down the sideline with no deep help within 20 yards, wide open pass for Levi Mitchell to hit along the sideline there. And then Lacombo comes in and is there late, and it kind of looks like he's the one that screwed up. But if you look at the beginning of the play, I'm pretty sure it was Sales that screwed up from just being very lackadaisical and undisciplined in his assignment.
All right, we're going to step back here. It's time now for the second segment that we like to say is the takeout of the game. The Italian Star Deli, providing Regina and area with quality specialty products since 1966. When you visit the Italian Star Deli, you're truly part of the family. So drop by any time and they'll help you find whatever your heart and palate may desire. Whether you're looking for olive oil, specialty meats and cheeses, pasta, sea salt, vinegar, canned tomatoes, or one of their mouth-watering famous sandwiches, you're sure to find it and so much more at the Italian Star Deli, 1631 Victoria Avenue, Regina. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show. We do realize we're having a bit of phone issues. This is the first year we've been able to take phone calls. We used to do video calls last year, but people were we had a couple of video callers and some not so interested in doing that. So we're trying to take some audio calls. We're just having a couple of technical issues that way, so we may get to them. If you do want to try, that'd be fine. We're just trying to work it out. It's 922-6955, 306-922-6955. He's Ryan Hall. I'm Michael Ball. Kyrie Zaber, no show again, Ryan. We're going to have to really get on his case when all three of us hook up. Now, I will give him a bit of...
These young guys, cannot rely on them. You got to go back to the old dinosaurs. Luckily, this game's not past my bedtime, so I wasn't tucked into bed when you texted me and got me on. So, come on, Kyrie.
Thank God for that, man. Okay, so I'll give him a break because they did have some tornado issues in his area this week. In fact, one day I was talking to him, and he said, I got to go, Ballsy. I got to go to the shelter because the sirens are going off. So we're pretty fortunate here that we can get that type of weather, but fortunately that hasn't been the case. Takeout of the game. I didn't see a lot of hellacious hits. I guess the one I will say was Revis coming off the edge on a blitz when he tattooed Bo Levi Mitchell. That's what I'd say my hit of the game is for the Italian Star Deli.
And that kind of play, that's awesome. Like, that's just a great football play. I don't know what the tight end was looking at on that side because there's an extra man on the end of the line, the tight end. And for some reason he was looking inside and let Revis come right off his shoulder and have that wide open shot. But, again, just like not a kill shot or anything like that, just a football play coming in and make a big play for the sack.
Matt Young, who's with CTV in Saskatoon, a friend of mine, says he loves Ryan Hall. Good analysis, good show. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that, buddy.
Yeah, hi to Ryan Dolkey, Jaden's dad, checking it out. Dennis Gore in Buffalo, big Rider fan, and Jeffrey Gravel, a friend of my son's, checking us out as well. Wherever you're consuming this podcast, I do appreciate it. We got the Our Balls Are Bigger t-shirts. We're raising money for Glenn Young, who used to be a linebacker. Glenn Love, who used to be a linebacker in the CFL with Calgary, with Montreal, with Saskatchewan, won a Grey Cup with Calgary in 2014. He started a Love Life ALS Foundation. So we're just going to send some money down to him. $25 a shirt. Just DM me at any of the social media platforms you follow me on, or you can always text or call me 306-526-7979. I had Shelby from Moose Jaw come into the dealership today. She wants a large and 2 medium. So there you go. You wore your shirt.
And the shirts, it's Father's Day tomorrow. The shirts make your stomach look small and your biceps look big. So go ahead and get a couple.
If they could even make me have biceps, hey, that's what it's all about. I know exactly, man. I like it. So Ryan, I wanted to go into the interception by Roland Milligan, which was an excellent play, and we will highlight that play in a segment down the line here. But just Roland Milligan had 8 interceptions last year, special teams demon as well. I thought he should have been the MOP in the league, to be quite honest with you. No disrespect to Brady Oliveira. But to come back from a concussion, slowly ramp up during the week, I thought maybe they should have held him out for 1 week, but what the hell do I know? He has an interception, and that was a game turner too.
Yeah, like we'd be talking about a loss if it wasn't for that big pick six that he had. So certainly it was a big play at an important time because Hamilton had the early lead there, and the Riders were kind of slow coming out of the gate at the beginning of the game. So that really sparked them in the second quarter, getting them ahead and getting them a little bit more positive momentum.
All right. Let's go to our next segment if we can, Leander, if you're ready to go there. It is the On the Money segment for Payson Insurance Services. Payson Insurance specializes in helping hard-to-insure people get coverage. They also offer a range of financial management and investment services to help secure your future. People care most about their money and their family. I personally trust Kevin. Best way to describe dealing with him are the 3 C's. He's comfortable to deal with, he cares about your future, and he's confident in helping you make the right financial decisions. Payson Insurance. Give them a call, 306-596-0244. And thanks to Kevin Payson for getting on board. On the money, I mean, there were those 4 passes in a row on that drive. My on the money play is the one, Trevor Harris to Keyshawn Johnson. Although I will say earlier in the game, as a kind of an honorable mention, Ryan, was that pass to Kenny Lawler down the sidelines where it was 2nd and 17 for Hamilton, and Bo Levi Mitchell kind of throws it up hoping for his receiver to make a play, and that's why you pay Kenny Lawler the most dollars for a receiver in the league. He goes up, and I don't know what your vertical was, but mine wasn't that high. That was a great play, so I call that it wasn't really on the money, but that's when your receiver makes it look like it was on the money.
Yeah, that was one great play, but like you said, Trevor Harris, it wasn't just that one pass on that drive. It was several passes that were really pinpoint, putting him in a nice spot for Johnson on those series of catches that he had. So I think that's a good choice, focusing on Harris for those series of passes.
Let's talk about Kenny Lawler, though. Hamilton is off to an 0-2 start. I still think they'll be around at the end in terms of, in the mix for the playoffs. Kenny Lawler he's a rider killer, but he is a game-breaking receiver. Off the top of my head, I can't think of another more dynamic receiver in the league.
Yeah, because he's got all the tools, right? Like, he's fast, he's big, he's a great at catching contested balls. When the coverage is there, he's still able to come down with it a lot of times. He knows where the end zone is and knows how to get into it. So yeah, it's early in the season still. Hamilton's going to get some things figured out, and they're going to get some wins. They're not a terrible football team at all, and Lawler's certainly going to be a big part of that. Yeah, he's had just a great. He's not just a flash in the pan. He's had a lot of good seasons in a row here, being a top receiver.
I picked Jameer Thurman to be the defensive player of the year last year in the CFL. I thought he'd really thrive in the Corey Mace-led defense, and he didn't win that award, obviously. His teammate was better, Roland Milligan. Beverett in Montreal, real good too last year. But he was good, and he continues on that pace now, Ryan. He had 10 tackles last week, and today he was around it. He forced Bo Levi Mitchell to get the ball out early. He had a quarterback sack. I really like how Thurman's playing in the middle of that defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he's a consistent guy. Like he's a guy that is going to be there. He's going to do the job. And I think in any time, whether you're talking offense, defense, or special teams, kind of like we talked with the offense a few minutes ago with the receivers, it's nice if it's not just one guy that the other team has to account for. If it's Milligan making plays, or Thurman making plays, or Rivas making plays, or Johnson making plays, whoever. Like, as long as the guys on the defense are making plays, then the team's going to have a lot better chance of being successful. So, but yeah, he's been having a good start to the season.
So, we always talk about, well, is this a legitimate league? You look at Tavon Campbell, the former Regina Ram, wasn't a high draft pick in the CFL, went to the Jets, was with the Chargers, and was, he lasted in the NFL a while, and the Jags too, but lasted in the NFL a while because he can run. And it looks like he can still run. But where I'm going with this is you have Kenny Lawler, and Tavon had his hands full with Kenny Lawler early in the game. In particular, that pass I was talking to you about a few minutes ago. So I don't want to say it legitimizes our league, but it's like, this is a real football league. That guy was chasing around Tyreek Hill a couple of years ago in the Chargers-Chiefs matchup, and now he's in Steeltown against Kenny Lawler. Like, Kenny's a big-time player.
Yeah, and you hear that repeatedly from guys that spend time in both leagues, that they acknowledge that, yeah, the Canadian Football League has great football players and great athletes, and it's not like a huge step down, because you see guys that come up from the States and they don't necessarily just walk in and do great. Like, it takes them a while. That they've got to get the game figured out. They've got to realize that, oh yeah, that like these guys, they get paid to play, and they're pretty good, even though they don't get millions to play. They're still good football players, and yeah, it'll be good to see him continue to fit in and hopefully continue to be a bigger impact player in the pass coverage for the Riders.
So Garney Henley had his jersey retired at halftime for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I don't know anything about Garney Henley. Like, I never watched Garney Henley as a player. He was famous for drafting a dead guy when he was running Ottawa. Remember that? Garney Henley.
Yeah. He was the guy.
Yeah,
okay, I didn't know that.
He drafted a dead guy. But he's only the third Hamilton Tiger Cat to have their jersey retired. Like, that jersey will never be worn again. I think it was number 26, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It's 26. Maloney was one. I think he was number 20 or 10. Bernie Maloney. And then the other one was Angela Mosca, 68. Here's my question to you. How do you feel about jersey retirement? Like, you can't... It's funny how life works, because I used to be on this end, and I said, why is that guy wearing 81? That's Ray Elgard's number. Why is that guy wearing 80? That's Don Narcise's number. And then my kid was wearing number 15 for the Bombers, and they took it away from him because they're saving it for a quarterback, Taylor Elgersma, if he comes back from Green Bay, okay? Let's be honest. They never told him that, but if they were saving it for another quarterback, they would have given it to a guy already. They're waiting for Elgersma to come back, okay, and they don't want Ethan to have it established, let's be honest. So they gave Ethan 29. Do you know who 29 is in Bomber history? Leo Lewis. With all due respect to Jeff Treflin, Leo Lewis. So here I am, the guy a couple years ago. Now, somebody might be saying, why is that bald kid wearing 29? How do you feel about jersey retirements?
I don't know if it's that. Like, I think some teams go overboard, and some situations go overboard with the tributes they do to individuals that I don't know. Maybe I just don't understand the value of that individual to the team and the community. A team like Hamilton that only has 3, like, shoot, for as long as they've been around, that's not very many. But some teams, they got jerseys retired, numbers retired left and right. And then now you start seeing jerseys getting unretired, when some star gets drafted and that's their number. And then they ask the person or the family of the person whose jersey was retired, hey, is it okay if we give them? Oh, yeah, okay. So I don't know. I kind of think the name, giving the name recognition, like the Ring of Honor type of idea that stadiums have, where the name is up. as kind of like an all-time person for that
Yeah,
team.
and I think that's what teams are doing. They're doing the Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Like you look at the Riders. The Riders lost all those players in a crash, and they have their numbers in the plane crash, and they have their numbers up at Mosaic Stadium. So I think the Ring of Honor is the way to go because you only have so many numbers in football. And I don't like these linebackers wearing 6 or these. I don't like that. I like the traditional like double numbers, like 45, 42.
Yeah, and I guess times change and it's different now. You got single digits on the D line and single digits at linebacker and single digits at wide receiver that you didn't used to have. So I guess those things change. But yeah, like at some point, especially teams that have been around for a long time, you're going to run out of numbers if you keep retiring every great impactful person's number. Maybe not so much these days anymore because of free agency. It's not like back in the 70s and earlier where players played for the same team for 10, 15, 20 years, and you just associate that person with that team and that number. Now, they're here for 3 years, then they're there for 3 years, and maybe they change their number with their third team. And so it's maybe it won't happen quite as much nowadays with free agency. I don't know. But yeah, I think it's nice to honor people, but I think sometimes we maybe go a little too far. Like no disrespect at all to the loss that Milt Stiegel's family suffered when his son passed away. But for TSN to dedicate their entire season to the son of a broadcaster, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Yeah,
that's maybe a bit much. Like certainly pay respect to Milt and his family, and pay respect to the young man. Just a tragedy that a young person loses their life, but it just seems like these days we feel like we have to be so gesture every time something really unfortunate or tragic happens. I don't know, because at some point we're going to run out of extravagant things to do for people or situations, because okay, well, how do we, given a whole season to the relative of a broadcaster, how do we top that? Like what do we do
you're
next?
right. No, I get what you're saying. I absolutely get what you're saying there.
And I don't mean to offend anybody or hurt anybody's feelings, but that's just what I think.
No, absolutely. And that's why we have you on here, because we want you to give us your opinion. I got this from the bomb. How come Jim Barker hasn't been on TSN football? I have no idea. Jim Barker hasn't been on. Matt Dunnigan is gone. I'm friends with Matt, but he hasn't returned any texts as of late. So,
did Dunnigan get canned or did he?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know if he stepped away from doing it or what. But haven't had a chance.
Like, if it was
to
his
reach out
choice, fine. But if it wasn't his choice, like Dunnigan's not perfect. He sometimes gets forgetful and stuff. But he's very interesting. He's very entertaining.
I like him because he's unfiltered. He's just a raw broadcaster. I guess that's why I like doing this show, because it's just rough around the edges. We say what we say. We say what we think. And I love that about him. He wasn't like structured, and he brought some personality to the broadcast. You know what I mean? That's what I like.
And not personality for the sake of personality. Like, it was just genuine. It was him being him. And Barker, like I think I've really grown to appreciate his insights on the panel shows. Like some of the people on the panels, I'm not really into them too much. But Barker, I think, had really good insights. I like listening to him.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to say hi to Mike Ridgway watching the show as well. Thanks for checking us out. And Tyler McKinley. Let's go, Ballsy. Hey, by the way, I am Ballsy Damas, because I told my son and my cousin. Back to hockey for a second. When the things started to go south for the Oilers, like, we're going to come back again. I said, no, we're losing 5-2. Oilers lose 5-2 to Florida. So now they got to drag them back to Alberta for a Game 7. By the way, hockey goes way too long. Way too long. Back when the Oilers won their first cup, it was over May 24th, 1984. That's when the Stanley Cup should be done, in May. Let me ask you, though, about football before we take a break. I've heard people actually bitch that we start the season too early now in the CFL. I actually like it this early. I like to have our championship game with the X factor of the weather kind of corralled, contained. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather have it over by November 17th, where you might be playing in -2, right around +1 to -2, as opposed to the end of November where it could be -10 or 15. To me, that's not football weather. We might differ there, but I don't like it.
I think it, like, at the end of the season, it's a difference of only a week. Moving it from the third, I think from the third weekend to from the fourth weekend to the third weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when the Grey Cup is now the third Sunday of November.
Yeah.
And I think that's reasonable because, again, like you said, playing in outdoor stadiums most of the time, other than BC Place, or maybe if they play it in the Sky Dome, it would be indoors. But yeah, it's still, if you're playing in -5, -10, that's not terrible. Yeah, you just don't want -20 like that. That's pretty harsh.
The other reason why I like it, Ryan, sorry for cutting you off, I like it for this reason too, because it you compete less with the NFL. And what I mean is
yeah.
we got the whole summer to ourselves now. Like, hockey's done. You just got basically baseball now you're competing with. NBA's over. So you're really, you got the summer to yourself. That's what I like about it. And you get an early start on that.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. The other reason I think why, and this year was the earliest start ever for the CFL, I believe. The other reason for that, I think, is because each team has 2 bye weeks during the season, right?
Mm.
So that's spreading out the season a little bit more instead of just 1 bye week, which is typical. Now teams have 2 bye weeks just because, again, we've got the odd number of teams. Scheduling is a nightmare to try and make it work. So I guess they figure that's what they have to do. Yeah. So yeah, I don't. It's football. It's the CFL, and I enjoy it. So if it's going to start in early June, I'm watching. And if it's going to start in mid-June, I'm watching. If it doesn't start till Canada Day, I'm still watching. But like you said, if we started a couple weeks earlier, that gives us a couple of weeks where we don't have to go up against the NFL or American college football or whatever other things would catch people's interest.
Well, and then you could get crappy weather earlier in the year, but I'd rather play games when the weather's shitty earlier in the year as opposed to late in the year where it's everything's for all the marbles. I don't know.
But football's football. Like, you're going to get crappy weather.
I know. Yeah, you're right.
In the summer, you're going to get a thunderstorm or
you're right.
A tornado warning coming through. You're going to get that crap. So whatever. Like, if we're making the changes because of weather, making a whole bunch of changes for weather, like, I think you're fighting a battle you can't win. You just kind of do what's best for the league, what's the best time for us to play, and if this is the best time because NHL is done and basically the only other pro sport going on right now is Major League Baseball. Once the NBA wraps up, then that's pretty good. If we've got the summer to ourselves, then that's good for viewership. It's good for fans going to the stadium, hopefully. So that's a good thing.
All right, let's get to our lit play of the game, and it's brought to you by our friends at JLB Electric. At JLB Electric, their mission is to provide top-quality residential and commercial electrical services in Regina and surrounding area. They're committed to delivering efficient, reliable, and affordable electrical solutions, including new construction wiring, renovations, service upgrades, and 24-hour emergency assistance. Their team of licensed electricians ensures exceptional service from start to finish. They prioritize safety, customer satisfaction, and expert workmanship. As Regina's trusted one-stop shop for electrical contracting, they are dedicated to powering our community with excellence. All right, heading down the home stretch here of the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show. Try to give us a call now. I think we fixed it. I hope we fixed it, and it might have been the person trying to call in. 306-992-6955. 306-992-6955, and I'll put the $25 in for you to give you a shirt. I've got a couple of double extra larges right now in my batch. Some extra larges, large and medium. No triple X's. I've got another order in. Freshly pressed is the makers of my shirts. Okay, the lit play of the game for JLB Electric. I had 2. Now, we already talked about Milligan. I'm going to say that's my runner-up. The play of the game was A.J. Ouellette. Listen, sports is the best form of reality TV. I don't know if you're into Survivor or any of that reality TV, Ryan, but the best form of reality TV is live sports. You got a guy that goes out early in the first game and everybody's like, oh, that's it. This guy's overrated. He's done, hurt again, what a bum. And he's sitting out, and I thought it was his wrist, but apparently it was a concussion. So he's out, he being A.J. Ouellette. They bring in Kadeem Carey, 1,000-yard rusher. We talked about this at the start. Competition's good for everybody. This guy busts off a run. And why I call that the lit play of the game, great vision, great stiff arm, which wasn't really a blow to the head. Like, I could live with that one. It was more like a shimmy to stop the guy from tackling him. So I don't think it was egregious. We've talked about that before. But what I liked, Ryan, I like Mitch Picton's block coming down. Mitch Picton's crack block to not a crack block, but he just sealed off the linebacker. And then downfield, Keyshawn Johnson blocking too. And you know the receivers coach and the head coach will like to see that effort away from the ball.
We didn't talk about it last week, but that was one of the keys to the game last week, I think, was Emilis's blocking. Like, there were so many of the highlights on the runs and on the passes to other players where he's just working hard. As a football coach, we call that looking for work. You know, if you don't get the ball, look for work. What can you do to help the play happen? And you talk about Mitch Picton, and that was I got to coach Mitch way back when he was in grade 9 in spring league. And that was the thing that I remember about Mitch as a grade 9 kid, is he was just the best blocker on the team as a receiver. Like, he was just a kid that was always out there looking for work, getting downfield, blocking for his teammates and stuff like that. And that's where I really gained an appreciation for him, even though he played for Leboldas, who were our big rivals, and had to watch them beat us in the city final several years in a row. But still, he's still that same kind of player, like just that grinder, that hard worker that does all the little things right, and does everything he can for the team. It's not about him. Everything's about the team. But yeah, that run by Ouellette, like, I put up my hand. I got to admit, I was one of those people in my mind saying, oh yeah, he's washed. He's banged up again. He's going to be missing 8 games, 11 games, whatever. But he came out, and that was an angry run. Like, I just liked, he just ran angry, and he was not going to be tackled on his way to the end zone. And, just how he not only ran to open space, but then when there's contact there, he just ran right through it and used a stiff arm and used his shoulder to fight through the attempted tackles. That was a beauty. Because when you said there's a better play than Milligan's interception, I'm like, wait, what? How can there be that was a huge pick six, huge time in the game. But I'm going to give you that one. I'm going to agree with.
Well, I just liked all the elements of it. I liked the line was great. The run was angry, as you so eloquently put it there. And then the blocking of the receivers. And I'm a former receiver, and you used to get shit when you didn't block, when you weren't looking for work, when you're only looking for passes. That's how you get passes, by looking for work. So great job by Picton, and great job by Keyshawn Johnson. Hey, speaking of before we get to some of the other games and wrap the show up, okay, and Waldo's Warriors too, I got to give 2 shouts out. First of all, Tim Jorgensen watching. He's a Rider fan, a friend of mine, watches all the shows that I do. Ballsy Uncut during the week, and this one really likes the work you do, Ryan. Tim's birthday today, so happy birthday to Tim.
Hey, happy birthday, buddy.
Yeah, and Glenn Duke also watching, so do appreciate it. Tell all your friends to see the viewer count going up. So you'll find us. You're going to find the best. People are like, Ballsy, I miss you on the post-game show. We got a post-game show right here. It's supposed to be Ballsy and the Angry Bird and Ryan Hall. Angry Bird. I'm angry at the bird right now because he's jammed out twice. I'm just joking. Okay, 2 things. First off.
And I got 2 too if you don't hit them.
Yeah, no, I know which one you're going to hit, but I'm going to hit another one that maybe you're going to hit. Maybe we're on the same page here, Ballsy and Hallsy. 6 years ago, I put in paperwork for Frank McChrystal to go history at that time. Most U Sports wins. But the amateur coach combined junior and U Sports with the most wins is Frank McChrystal. And he helped usher in a new era where the Rams went from junior to U Sports. Not alone, but he was the face of it, okay? And had a lot to do with it. More than just coaching the team, okay? And through his whole time coaching the Rams at the university, a lot of these coaches, and no disrespect to any of them, they just coach their team. He had to go out and do fundraising. He had to do all that other stuff behind the scenes to get a program off the ground. So I checked in 2 years ago. I was like, are we doing this? Is he in? Where's my paperwork? They know he's going to get in. I said, well, can we get him in before he dies? And so finally the call came, and he's going in September. You played for him. I played for him. The one thing I like about Frank McChrystal is he cares about the person. It's not just the program, it's the person first. Just your thoughts on Frank McChrystal going in.
Yeah, first of all, bottom line, Frank deserves to be in. And everything Frank did, there's nothing Frank did where he did it alone. He surrounded himself with really good people, and I know you interviewed him on your podcast during the week, and I listened to that interview. And he talked about some of the key people, and you talked about some of the key people. Certainly Bernie Schmidt, top of the list, and right along them would be Jerry Orban and Rick Seaman. Rick Seaman, one of my personal mentors, and just a man that's had an incredible influence in my life as my position coach with the Rams. But Frank was like a philosopher. You know, he was a real thinker. Like to him, leading a football program was, and you talked about this in your interview, he wasn't a big X's and O's guy. Like I know he understood the X's and O's, he understood the game very well, but that's not what he preoccupied himself with. He surrounded himself with good people who could take care of the X's and O's and take care of those details. And his thing was leadership. It was establishing a culture on a football program and a football community, because it wasn't just the players, it was the directors and the support staff and everybody was involved, and alumni, and so he's a person that he had a huge impact on my life as a player, you know, when I was there, and he and I didn't always agree. Like, you know, we butted heads a couple times, and that's kind of the way it was.
Me too.
Yeah, but you know, when I look back and when I think about him in the 35 years ago, the last time I played for him, I just learned so much from him, and he impacted the way I became in particular, a head coach and somebody who wasn't afraid to let go of the reins and not, you know, because I'm a defensive guy, I'm going to be the defensive coordinator because I don't trust anybody. I'm going to find people that I trust, and I'm going to bring good people around me who aren't going to be yes men, who aren't going to do things the same as me, but who have the same vision and the same philosophy of what this team should be about and how we should do things and how we should treat people, treat the players, and that kind of stuff. I'm sure in the coach's room, Frank butted heads with some of those guys. Like, there's some pretty strong personalities in those coaching staffs all those years. And even with the directors, I bet they had some run-ins sometimes, but we never saw it as players. We just saw a unified, cohesive group led by Frank, and not just a thinker and a philosopher, but just a super interesting guy. Like, he's very funny. You know, he can just find some really humorous things about situations and people and just have a way to tell a story or a scenario that just, you know, it's just so memorable. You can remember years later.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm very honored and proud to have been part of the Rams and in those years when Frank was coaching, and to have been able to look back as an alumnus and see all the things that have happened, and how his legacy still is a part of the team, even though he hasn't been part of the team for a decade. So his impact and legacy is still there with the current coaches and directors and players, I think.
Fourth Ram to go into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, along with third Ram, I think. So there was Roger Aldag, there's him, there's Roger Aldag, him, Jim Hobson. I think Tom Shepard was as a Ram board of directors, and then you had
think it was.
Yeah. Sorry, and then you had Gord Curry too. 5, I guess. Gord Curry into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. The other thing I wanted to mention, so Deshaun Mims dressing today was the 17th Ram since they went to the U Sports era to dress for the Riders, 55th overall. So that tells you the Ram tie-in, and some of that has to do with Frank. A lot of it has to do with Frank. And then I'll tie this one in the second point I wanted to make before we take a break for Waldo's Warriors and wrap things up. Ryan, you look around the league. I could just look to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They've got 6 Regina kids on their team, okay? Well, the Rams have, off the top of my head, Mims, Jackson Ford, Mitch Picton, just off the top of my head. I think those are the 3. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers have 6, and a lot of these guys have come up through the ranks, whether it's RMF or Saskatoon minor football or 6-man or 9-man, and then they go to U16 and they go to U18. Let's talk a little bit about U16 here. I'll give you a couple of minutes to talk about U16 Saskatchewan football, because U16, U18, we punch above our weight class.
Yeah, no question. In the U18 level, there's a national competition every year called the Football Canada Cup, organized by Football Canada. So provincial teams from across the country meet in one location and have typically an 8-game tournament. And Saskatchewan has done very well traditionally at that tournament. Again, being one of the smallest provinces by population, Saskatchewan medals almost every year. And I believe Saskatchewan's won 6 gold medals at the Football Canada Cup since joining the competition in 2004, which is the first time. And so that's a great thing. And then Football Canada changed and added another not national but East and West competition for under 16. It's called the Western Challenge and the Eastern Challenge. And before that, there had been some under 16 programs in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, but they kind of did different competitions. So in Saskatchewan, in 2012, we put together our first under 16 team to compete it was called the Red River Cup. It was a tournament hosted by Football Manitoba. And we won that year in our first year going into it. And then, and that was something that was just done by RMF, Regina Minor Football. It wasn't a Football Saskatchewan program. And then after a year or two, then Saskatoon Minor Football, saw that, well, hey, this is a good thing. It gives more of our players a chance for high level football. And so they started North Saskatchewan, and we had South Saskatchewan. So each Saskatoon and Regina, SMF and RMF hosted under 16 programs, and then had an interprovincial or intra-provincial competition called the Prairie Challenge. And so it's a 2-game total point series, 1 game in Saskatoon, 1 game in Regina, and then there's a trophy that goes to the winner of the challenge. And then after the 2 games, then there's a single coaching staff for Team Saskatchewan that they pick the best 40 players from the 2 teams, from the 80 kids that are on the 2 teams. So today was the second day of the Prairie Bowl. Last week up in Saskatoon, South Sask went up there and had a really good game. And I think the score ended up 39-0 for Team South Sask. And today, South Sask hosted at Leibel Field and won, I think it was 42 or 43-0. So anyway, the 2-game series ended up 79-0 in favor of Team South Sask. So I just want to say a great job by the coaches of Team South Saskatchewan. Will Putlin's a head coach, a very good friend of mine and somebody that I've had the privilege of coaching with over the years. Had a couple of my former players. My son Marcus was a defensive back coach, and Jordan Hibbert was the receivers coach. And Jaden Marwick was the offensive coordinator. Of course, he's taken over as the offensive coordinator at the U of R coming up this season. So just a really good coaching staff for Team South Sask, and they worked really hard with the kids. And again, it wasn't about wins and scores and a trophy with them. It was all about, really doing things right and trying to build into the character and maturity of these young kids, these 14, 15-year-olds that were part of the team. And I do want to pay tribute also to SMF, led by Brian Giebert, and to the coaching staff of Team North Sask. This just wasn't their year, but they played hard. They didn't quit. They gave it what they had in both games. And so I just want to wish now the unified Team Saskatchewan the best of success as they go to the Western Challenge. And as you said, Saskatchewan always punches above their weight class. Don't be surprised if little old Saskatchewan goes and beats Alberta and BC and Manitoba this July in. I'm just trying to remember where the tournament is. Winnipeg, I believe it is.
Okay, well said, Ryan. Okay, before we take a break here, Sven Stoffels, I think that's how you say it. He wants to, or she, Sven, probably a he, wants to know how to get merch. Just text my personal cell right now, okay? 306, I don't care who has it. Everybody in the world will have it now in Regina because I sell cars. 306-526-7979. Text my number and I will hook you up with the shirt. We'll get the details. I'll tell you where you can e-transfer me, and we'll get a shirt to your place. Like I got for Shelby and Moose Jaw, 3 shirts. Ricky, I got to drop off a shirt at his house tomorrow or Monday. By the way, Ryan, happy Father's Day, man. Father's Day tomorrow.
Thank you. Same to you, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. Father's Day tomorrow. Okay, we're going to take a break and be back to wrap up. But first, we want to roll. Do we have the intro for Paul Waldo, Leander? Waldo's Warriors? Let's get to Waldo's Warriors right now. Well, Waldo's Warriors highlights the stars of the game. And speaking of stars, how about Paul Waldo? Played at Dr. Martin Labolis, played for the Junior Thunder football team, U of S Huskies, coaches the U of S Huskies, and won 3 Grey Cups, 2 with the Montreal Alouettes, 1 with your Saskatchewan Roughriders. He's taken that dedication and teamwork mindset to the real estate game with his great team at Royal LePage. Get in the real estate game with Paul Waldo by giving him a call, 306-502-5355. Well, Waldo's Warriors highlights the stars of the game. And speaking of stars, how about Paul Waldo? Played at Dr. Martin. All right, Paul gets a little extra plug there. Yeah, Paul Waldo. There's a guy, 160 pounds soaking wet when he played, Ryan.
Less than that when he played for me with the Thunder. He was about 135.
Okay, so he
we used to joke that we had to stuff socks in his pants so they wouldn't fall down.
Yeah, so he went to 160, played in the CFL, corner and special teams, won 2 Grey Cups with Montreal and 1 with Saskatchewan, and now in the real estate game, and just a great guy in the community, giving back to this podcast too. So I do appreciate it. Okay, so our Waldo's Warriors. I'm going to go hi to Jacob Cormier, who just chimed in literally. So we've got Milligan's going to be my defensive warrior with an honorable mention to Thurman. I thought he had a great game, like I said. And then I'm going to go with honorable mention to Keyshawn Johnson for that drive and his blocking. But I'll go to A.J. Ouellette with the pressure on him. Not easy to be a football player in Saskatchewan when you're not living up to your paycheck as perceived by the fans, some of the media, some of the talking heads like us. And so I'll give it to A.J. Ouellette. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but those are my Warriors of the game.
Yeah, I think that those two, Ouellette and Johnson, would be good calls. I don't know. My perception of Ouellette is, I haven't seen too many interviews and stuff, but I don't have the perception that he cares much what other people think.
That's right.
he just seems to be who he is. He's going to be who he is, and he's going to do his thing, and he's going to do it the best he can. And if you like him, great. And if you don't like him, well, whatever. He's not going to change, I don't think, for anybody else. He's just going to be him, and I can respect that.
Yeah, okay, let's get to the other games quickly before we wrap up. Winnipeg 34-20 over BC. Couple of key injuries in that game. Brady Oliveira lands hard after ripping off a run down the right sidelines. He's got some sort of shoulder injury. Truth be told, I do know what the injury is, but unlike some people that like to think I leak things all over the place, I'm not going to say it because I cover 8 teams and 9 I just kind of stay out of the way there. You know what I'm saying? But Brady Oliveira, needless to say, will not be back for a little bit. That's all I'll say. But Matthew Peterson, Can West Player of the Year, U of A Golden Bear. There's a great team. BC and Winnipeg play above the Canadians. They have to play. That's why they got extra draft picks. And I think it was BC and Winnipeg, or it was Winnipeg and Calgary. But anyway, you know, Winnipeg had Harris, have Oliveira. Now they've got Peterson. I like what they're doing in a non-traditional spot. And then, of course, Nathan Rourke goes down with that oblique injury. We're not sure how bad that's going to be. And that's the only one I got wrong this week. I was 3-1. I thought BC would win just Rourke over Strevler, but give it Yeah.
Strehler pulled that one out of the hat.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
Ryan, give that to Strevolution. That's right. That was his best game as a quarterback.
Yeah, like when I would have picked that game exactly the same, just because you got Rourke coming off that really good performance in week 1, and Strehler off the bye week when when he's got to step in and start, and he certainly hasn't established himself as a passer, but wow, like he threw for almost 300 yards, and that was not just a squeaker of a win. They had a good convincing win over BC.
Yeah, they absolutely did. Winnipeg is the class of the West. It's their division until somebody takes it away from them, although the Riders sit in first right now in the CFL's West with their 28-23 win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats, as you see the score at the top of the screen. Montreal over Ottawa, 39-18. The Montreal Alouettes are a wagon early. They look good. And what I like about them, hey, listen, Ryan, the formula has never changed in the CFL, and it will never change as long as we have the ratio, which, by God, we better keep. And I'd love to see expanded to 10 starters on a roster, Canadians. You got to have great quarterbacking, and you got to have, or at least above average quarterbacking, and you got to have the best Canadians and the most Canadian depth. Montreal looks like an unbelievable football team 2 weeks in.
Well, their defense, like their pass rush, how many batted balls was there on Drew Brown's passes went up in the air, and they got the one pick six that was kind of the nail in the coffin in the second half there, where Ottawa looked like they were kind of getting back in the game, and then Montreal was like, nope, just with their, and they weren't blitzing 6-7 guys. They were blitzing with 5, I think, and still getting a lot of pressure and getting hands in the passing lanes. Like, it must be a well-coached team. Like, I've never met Noel Thorpe, but if you judge him based on the way his team is playing, his defense is playing, it must be a pretty good coach.
Yeah, he is a good coach. Jason Moss is an excellent coach. Danny
and a Canadian coach too.
Yeah, that's right. And Danny Machocha, Canadian GM, knows how to find talent. Look at this Tice guy that they got at running back. You wonder why they got rid of Fletcher, but this Tice guy runs hard, and he always falls forward, and that's really demoralizing for a defense. When that running back always falls forward for 1 or 2 extra yards, that adds up in a game, not only physically but psychologically too, Ryan.
Yeah, because usually if you're falling forward, it's because you're bigger and stronger than the people who are tackling you, so you're kind of physically outpowering them, and if you're beating up on outside linebackers or defensive backs that are smaller, like, they're going to lose a little bit of the joy of competition after that keeps happening again and again.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Yeah, and Ottawa was hurting because Drew Brown was out because of that hip injury. So it was Matthew Schiltz in at quarterback.
Oh, sorry, Schiltz.
Yeah. No, I wanted to correct you. But yeah, Brown, remember, got that hip injury in the loss to Saskatchewan. I did pick Calgary to beat Toronto. Nick Arbuckle, from what I could watch on the lot, at the TV at the far end at Crestview Chrysler, Nick Arbuckle didn't have the greatest game, threw a pick 6. Calgary with a 29-19 win. Dave Dickinson came in under fire a little bit this year with 2 6-12 seasons in his belt. They don't like losing around in Calgary, but now they're 2-0, tied with Saskatchewan for first in the CFL West.
Yeah, a little bit surprising. I didn't get to see that game because I was at Libel watching the under-16 game at that time, so I can't really give any intelligent comments. But I know, I think in the second quarter, Campbell Antonini came out and said the score was 4-1 or something like that. Like, it was really low scoring for the first part of the game, but looks like the offenses picked it up a little bit later as the game went on.
Well, I sure hope for Vernon Adams that he continues to progress, because he is a classy guy, and he's never really been given that shot, I don't think. Like, I don't know if it's been his fault. It's because of injury. Last year was because of injury. He had the team rolling with the BC Lions, and so he's the anointed starter, the undisputed starter here in Calgary with a good coach and Dave Dickinson, who I don't think got stupid overnight, just the players, kind of, the stable of players. They had to replenish. So good on Calgary to start 2-0, because the league needs those Alberta teams back for the strength of the league. And then the Riders win tonight, 28-23 over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. You've coached a long time. I've coached too, but not at your level. So It wasn't perfect. It's not a Picasso, just like week one. It's more paint by numbers at times, but it's never easy to go on it's not easy to win a game in professional football. It's especially not easy to win on the road, and Hamilton has never been kind to the Riders. The last 2 years it has. Before that, it's been kind of, up and down there at, we used to call it Neverwin Stadium at old Iverwin Stadium. But just your thoughts, closing thoughts on this one, if you were a coach walking out with a victory.
Yeah, I think that's it. You walked out with a victory, and that's the most important thing. As you're trying to get established in the season, the game could have been, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, could have been a much bigger spread. If the kicking game would have been a little bit more consistent for Saskatchewan. But going on the road, flying all the way out to Hamilton, that's a challenge, and every game's going to be tough. I don't think, I think my son Marcus said that CFL, the CFL Twitter or website or whatever, had Saskatchewan number 1 in the power rankings coming into this week, which I'm like, I don't know if they've established that kind of resume yet. I'd have them, maybe around 3 or something like that.
Yeah. Coming into this week, I had them at 4. I had I had Montreal 1. I think I had BC 2. I put Winnipeg 3 because they hadn't played in the Riders 4. That's kind of where I had it.
Yeah, and I think something like that. I think I'd be around there too, because Winnipeg certainly looked good in their one game, and Montreal's looked really solid. Those teams look pretty good. So yeah, I think they're getting off to a good start. They got off to a good start last year. So this year, the thing is to keep hopefully overcoming the injuries and limiting, hopefully, and injuries are primarily a factor of luck, that they happen or they don't happen. So hopefully they get luck on their side this year as far as injuries go. And I've never met Corey Mace either, but just the impression I have of him is just a guy that seems really solid, really strong, and knows what he's about and what he wants the team to be about. And since he's taken over, it just seems like there's kind of a calmness about the team itself. Just like when I say the team, I just mean like the players and coaches, not necessarily the organization, but just the team. They just seem to be a little more solid and unified than they were the couple of years before.
Ryan, I appreciate you on a spur of the moment going to your basement and getting ready to do this on the fly. Unfortunately, couldn't hook up with Kyrie Zaber, but we always love talking football with an accomplished high school football coach, former junior player, accomplished teacher too. Thanks for your time, man. Happy Father's Day to you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks to you. Same to you, Michael. Have a great day tomorrow with your kids.
Yeah, take care, man. Okay, that'll do it for our show. I want to thank my friend Leander behind the scenes doing a great job here. His hands are going faster than probably his first date back in the day. Also want to thank Dean Gerhardt and his wife Nicole for opening up their studio to me. And yeah, for these guys, we change the background after every game. So when it's at home, you'll see Mosaic Stadium in the background. This is, I guess they're calling it Hamilton Stadium now. They don't have any naming rights. It used to be Tim Hortons Field, but it's Hamilton Stadium, where the Saskatchewan Roughriders beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats 28-23. If you want a shirt, DM me at The Real Ballsy on Twitter, Ballsy Uncut on Twitter or X, Michael Ball on Facebook, Ballsy Uncut on Facebook, or Ballsy Uncut on Instagram, or you could always text me, 306-526-7979. T-shirt, $25 goes to ALS and Glenn Love's Foundation, the former CFLer who has ALS, and you can e-transfer me, and I'll tell you how to get all the details, and I'll get your details to get the shirts out to you. We will be back here next Friday when the Riders go into Toronto, another Eastern road trip to take on the Argonauts. For Ryan and Hall, for Hallsy, I'm Ballsy. This has been the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show.